Hello, everyone. Sorry for causing any strokes or seizures just then, but we are here with another episode of the Free Roam podcast with a lot to talk about. So before we get into it, how are you, Mr. Jor Raptor?
I already said it to you before the show, but I'm extremely tired. So I had this festival that I talked about in last week's episode. Mm-hmm. So I went there on Thursday. I came home Sunday. Then Monday, we had a lot of like Wukong stuff. Yesterday the game came out, and it's been like I had no time to rest from this 4-day festival where I did not go like to bed that early or that late. No, I don't know. I did not sleep.
It's
a lot.
a blur.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I already forgot everything. No, but it is exciting though. I think it's gonna be a really fun show. I have some we both watched it live, of course, and there were some baffling things going on, in my opinion, at the Gamescom show. So I can't wait to talk to you about it. And you, I think, are the only person who played Concord. So, I mean, we have to mention it. It's 2 minutes into the show, of course.
Naturally. But this is very likely the last time we'll talk about it until they cancel it next year.
Next year you're giving them... because they already have the roadmap or something.
Yeah, I think what they're going to do is they're going to complete the roadmap. I think player numbers are going to be in 3 digits. Like, they're going to have a few hundred people playing. And then they'll add it to, like, PlayStation Plus. Because I think if they go full free to play for PC, everybody, I think that's going to tick off the people that bought it at launch too much, where you're going to lose 150 players, which is half your player base. And I mean, at that point, it's just fully dead. So I think they'll add it to PlayStation Plus eventually included with it. And I would fully expect that this is dead probably shortly after they drop the second big update in January. So yeah, it's but I made that video. We shout out to Jacob, who is in chat with us. Everybody give Jacob some love. He has pulled like 2 all-nighters back to back.
Oh, really? Crazy.
He's been working his butt off to get these videos. Even last night at like 1 a.m. I filmed the Starfield video that just went up on the channel like 30-ish minutes ago. And so he's been on the grind to get good content out. So shout out to Jacob. But we did that.
Do you let him sleep now? Like, is he allowed to sleep now, or is it still a grindy thing?
It depends on how well the videos do.
Jacob is like staring at the analytics like, no, please don't do so.
I need sleep.
No.
Oh man, but yeah, it's been a strangely busy week, and at least the takeaway, even though we have Concord, we have a pretty solid update to Starfield. We can talk about that later when we get to that part of the Gamescom show, because I've tried the rover. And then we also have, of course, Black Myth Wukong, which is, popping off in a lot of ways. A lot of people are enjoying it. So.
Want to say one thing. I was kind of right about it,
dude.
Like, the people were underestimating it, and I said it for a long time, and people were even like, "Star Wars Outlaws is gonna sell as well."
I think
it's gonna like do 10 times better. Okay, but it's gonna do way better.
Yeah, I think it's the Western bias, because in my sphere, like, I know some people that are interested in it, but I also know a lot more people that are interested in Star Wars Outlaws because it's Star Wars. But in China, it's apparently just been popping off. Apparently, like, I've seen some analytics that would say that 90% of the player base is currently in China. Which I don't know if it's that steep.
Maybe on PC. I think on PC PlayStation, it's still like doing very well, and that's, I think, mostly a Western audience.
Well, and to be fair, it's not even counting like those Steam numbers that have the 2.2 million concurrent players. That doesn't even count Wii Game, which is like the big Tencent launcher that's huge in China. So we just, I mean, the game is ridiculously successful no matter which way you cut it. And is it perfect? No. Is it a in my opinion, like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. I don't think so, but it's a really solid game. And I think it shows that 8 and even 8.5s can still be some of your favorite games of the year, even if there's individual
It's just something
points.
special. It's like a very cool look at at like a mythology and stuff that we just haven't seen a
Mhm.
lot of, and it's just pretty easy to understand what you're doing. I'm happy that the PC port seems to be solid. PS5, I'm having no issues whatsoever. Like we were kind of worried because we heard there are no codes going out to PS4, PS5. I've been playing solely on PS5 and no issues, and performance mode is really really good. So yeah, but great success all around. Some funny things like there were like in China, there was like coffee made for the game that they
Oh yeah.
introduced on Monday. Yeah, because they're like it's like super interesting because they're like people are gonna play a lot, so we have to look at okay, what are people going to drink to stay up all night? So they had like coffee from Black Myth Wukong, and now the stock from that company has like skyrocketed because they're selling like these coffee cups, Black Myth Wukong style, way faster than they anticipated. So it's like a very crazy thing over there as well. I saw on Reddit as well that one of like a big Chinese company was like, everyone is off, play Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's it's like a national, it's like a huge
I
thing
mean, there's a
there.
lot
It's
of pride in
crazy.
it. It seems a lot
Yeah,
of national pride from Chinese citizens that are just happy to see one of their games popping off internationally. And I mean, it's the thing. My economics professor, he always described when we were talking about international markets, he always described China in a similar way to how Japan was described in like the 50s and 60s, which is as the sleeping giant that you should be cautious of awakening, because
I
there's a
mean,
lot of people, there's a lot of talent, there's a lot of money there. And I think Black Myth reminds a lot of these Western developers that, like, yeah, no, if some of these Chinese devs decide to start breaking into the mainstream, like they can take the
it's
world by storm. They got the
yeah.
talent.
I mean, we got the Hojo verse, of course, which basically the new Blizzard, like it or not. Like they're launching game left or right that is making like 1 billion in revenue per quarter or something. Like they're doing crazy. Like one of the biggest games that people are looking forward to from Gamescom is Crimson Desert, a Korean game. So it's really really crazy to see. And then I'm not even touching on like other like Pal World was also like a huge thing. So it's crazy. They're really penetrating this market. I mean, we've seen that. Of course, first they were slowly coming in, buying stakes in Western companies, but now they're like, wait, we can also release our own games, and they have a lot of talent and they're really like good. Like I don't know if it's good, the work ethic they have, but it does like it's like a very they really go for I don't know how to say it, but they go for like the working there is like one of the things that everyone is like doing almost all the time. I don't know. It's like a culture thing from what I've been understanding. It's a really like there are so many people, for example, in China that you're all fighting for the few spots that they do have at a game developer. So you really go crazy to get that spot. So yeah, then you also have a lot of people who are kind of workaholics. And I do think that shows also maybe in the quality that they bring. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, companies like EA, Take Two, Microsoft in general, like all these big publishers and developers, they just need to remember, like, it's not the duopoly or triopoly or whatever you wanted to phrase it as that it was maybe 10 years ago, where it's basically EA, Ubisoft, maybe Take Two to a certain extent, but like there's the big 3 or 4 third-party devs and publishers, and other than that, it's just first-party stuff. But now it's really breaking into the international market, and hopefully this means that we get more games greenlit in countries like China and South Korea, and they start to really utilize that talent. I know in China it's complicated because they give out specifically like licenses to produce games, which is why Tencent started throwing so much money into third-party developers overseas because they could only, like, they literally were only allowed to make a certain number of games in a year, and they had to get approval from regulators. It's much more tightly controlled than it is in the US, where it's like, yeah, sure, make a game, whatever. But maybe this even loosens that up and they start to really incentivize this stuff, because I mean, it's popped off, and it shows that a lot of people are interested in it. So
Yeah, I mean, Phantom Blade Zero, Stellar Blade, like really those are the games that people are now looking forward to. It also feels that the Western companies are way more concerned right now because they kind of had the market for themselves. That they were like, okay, but how do we extract as much money from it with things like microtransactions, and that in like directly or sometimes directly hurts the game design, where they're like, okay, we have to get the time per player up because then they're more likely to spend money. And these like all these other, like, these new developers, like a Black Myth Wukong, is just a game that you buy, like, that's it. They don't do microtransactions. Phantom Blade Zero, Stellar Blade, of course, Hojoverse, different kind, but still they kind of set a new bar for free to play games. Like, their games are insanely like high quality and you can play them for free. Of course, the business model is something that I totally get people don't like, but still, they totally raise the bar for what a free-to-play game can be. It's interesting. It's an interesting trend, and
yeah, I mean,
again,
I really think we're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years, especially if Chinese regulators and stuff loosen up a bit. I think you're going to see billions of dollars poured in, because, like, if Tencent, for example, is able to produce more games in China with Chinese developers and talent, they're going to do that. And I'm sure there's going to be government incentives to do that. And they'll start throwing money there instead of at, like, Embracer Group, for example, which has been kind of a train wreck for the last few years. So I think that the market's going to look a lot different in 5-10 years, especially because I think there's going to be a lot of other big players who right now a lot of people probably haven't heard of, because Black Myth is just the first step. I mean, there's going to be a lot more that follow it. And just imagine if Crimson Desert lives up to the hype and that thing also blows up. Like, can you imagine? it's gonna be crazy.
Man, it's gonna blow up. Maybe not to the same degree, but yeah, I think that's also a game on a lot of people's list. They just give something, like, it's kind of like they're what they do is maybe not as ambitious like what Black Myth Wukong does. It's a pretty simple explanatory game. They do pretty simple combat, but what they do is really good and in a cool setting, and Crimson Desert seems to nail that as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't sometimes have to be that hard. It seems to but yeah, it's awesome to see. And Gamescom, like, being there last year was insane, because normally Blizzard had the biggest booth, and now it was Hojoverse. Like, you really see that also shifting. That, they're kind of, and like the cosplayers, all the Genshin characters, like, where were the League of Legends?
We were talking about it on stream yesterday during the Gamescom thing. Like, a lot of people in my community, like, we had 3,000 something people in here watching, and a lot of them were like, "Wait, what's this?" I was like, "It's Genshin Impact." A lot of people didn't even know what that was. But I'm like, this is, by like metrics of revenue, this is one of the biggest games in the world. Like, this thing prints money. It's outrageous. And it's huge, you know, with mobile gamers, of course, but it's primarily huge overseas. And I think once you start to see some of these really successful devs figure out how to crack the nut that is Western gaming as well, and especially console gamers and like PC gaming, it's going to be a totally different world. And I know I've seen a couple people in chat that are maybe not thrilled about it and are maybe fearful of the change, but at the end of the day, my perspective is that competition is good. If these guys from Game Science come in and make Black Myth Wukong, and it looks amazing, it plays really solid, it's not trying to lecture you about anything, you're just playing as a monkey beating up bears and tigers, and it's just a good time and eye candy through and through. That's good, because if they just dominate August and all the gaming revenue for August, that's going to make EA and Ubisoft and Microsoft and PlayStation sit up and go, okay, there's a new player in town. We got to play that same game to win that revenue. we can't just sit on our laurels anymore. And I think that that's really good. Competition is something that's sort of lacking, and I hope that this maybe can encourage more of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the First Descendant is another game that kind of came for maybe Destiny's money, right? Because that's a similar sort of looter shooter type of game, but they also cracked something there. One's human, another one like it's pretty crazy. It's they kind of took this. I mean, looking at the traditional games, this year was kind of light, but still Black Myth Wukong, like all these large games in July that had easily over 200,000 concurrent on Steam. And then we have a Concord or again, Star Wars Outlaws will be big because it's Star Wars, but I don't think it's going to be as big as you would think if you said, hey, an open world Star Wars game is coming from Ubisoft. So
I think it's going to primarily pop off in like the Black Friday and Christmas sales.
$30.
I think it's going to be a slow burn. But I mean, speaking of competition, though, let's just bring up the elephant of the room real quick with Black Myth Wukong before we transition into Gamescom. Xbox missed out on yet another one of the biggest games of the year.
It's a trend.
It's unbelievable. Like, they blew it with Baldur's Gate last year, and they're doing it with Black Myth this time. Like, granted, it seems as though the devs just said, we're not even going to try. And really, it all comes down to return on investment. It takes money and time to develop a port of your game for a new platform. And honestly, there's just not that many people that would be buying this game on Xbox. And when you consider the other cascading side effects, which is the Series S would hold it back, I don't blame them for sitting it out.
Yeah, but it's crazy that we've been like looking at this game. I mean, it's been 4 years. Every trailer they released had over 1 million views for like an unknown developer. Someone at Xbox must have been like, hey, we got to secure this game. Is it coming to our platform? But they did not do it.
Yeah, you'd think that they would be not again. We're not doing this. I mean, because they made the exception with Baldur's Gate 3, where they said, okay, split screen co-op, you don't have to worry about that on Series S. You can just have a different version running on that on that console. But with this, either they didn't we haven't heard about those discussions, or those discussions didn't happen. Maybe because Xbox was
it's
too
late.
Not worth it.
I think they're just behind the trend. When it was announced, it seemed, at least to us, when it was announced at Summer Game Fest that this game is coming later to Xbox, that then they were like, no, we don't. Oh no, shit! Call them or get do something. But probably before that. But still, it felt crazy. Like they were kind of caught off guard. Like Sony got a very nice exclusive for free.
Yeah, for free. I mean, it's just. I think the other piece of it too is they probably did market research and they saw this game was going to be disproportionately successful in Eastern markets. And Western markets, it would still do very, very well, of course, and obviously, as we've seen. But maybe they were like, hey, Xbox has basically no presence at all in Eastern markets, so why would we bother, maybe making a deal with them or making exceptions for them? Maybe that's part of it too.
I mean, I think we're underestimating, because I saw some people. There was at one point there were so yesterday, I think, when it came out at the peak, it had 2.2 million concurrent, the highest on Steam, I think, or
for
the top
any single player game, highest for any single player game ever.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then at one point it got down to 200,000 or something. And then people were already writing articles. Oh, they lost 2 million players. And now, if you look at it now, it's back. And then the people were like, yeah, but China was asleep. And I was like, no, I think I don't think it's only China. We have to wait. We have to see the numbers when the MPD releases their things. But I would not be surprised if at any moment we get a post that say we sold 10 million units. I think it's gonna be something crazy like that.
Oh yeah.
And then on we don't even see the PlayStation numbers. 2.2 million is concurrent. That's people booting the game up and people leaving. So that's the constant flow. That's already easily 6 million units, probably, right? And it's a word of mouth, I think, as well. A lot of people were curious about it, so we will see. But yeah, again, it's a miss. But they don't care anymore. They're gonna be a publisher now.
Yeah.
third party.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk a lot about that, here when we get to Gamescom, because that was supposed to be like the big
I'm on Series
wowzkanowza.
S right now. I see people say. I
Yeah.
think there's something with my. I don't know.
I will say, I just looked it up. I mean, the dips in players for Black Myth Wukong start happening specifically like around 19 UTC, 20, 21, 22, and then it picks back up after the fact. And if we say like 20 UTC, that would be like 4 a.m. in China. So I do think there's perhaps weight and validity to the argument that these player numbers are dropping specifically when people are going to bed in China, and then they pick up when people get back from work. That does seem to be at least consistent. Maybe it's just a coincidence that that's how the timeline works out. But without a doubt, like, it doesn't change the fact players in China are still gamers, are still players who are buying the game and playing it on Steam. So I don't know why there's the whole, like, I've seen some of those articles, the cope from some of the media in at least the Western markets, where it's like, well, no, it's like, yeah, it's a 2.2 million concurrent players, but like it's mostly Chinese players. It's like, cool. Like, okay, how does that change anything? The point is, it sold very, very well. And if anything, like, more people than would typically be playing these games are playing it. Who cares where they live?
Yeah, and Steam I don't think is even available in China like legally, so they have to like do all
like
the sort of
VPNs
loopholes
and crap.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is also, if it's at 2.2 million and that's with people in China using VPNs or whatever else to access it, again, it's not counting PlayStation numbers and it's not counting Wii game numbers, which is the Tencent launcher. I'm sure they probably have realistically like 3 to 4 to 5 million concurrent players across everything. It's outrageous. Like, it's unbelievable. This might be, like you said, a 10 million copy, a 15 million copy game within just a couple weeks.
Yeah,
which is unbelievable.
That's crazy.
So
I think Assassin's Creed China, the PC version is coming.
Yeah.
They might be like, oh, this is we got a market there.
Did you see that? Did you see what they just did?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, that's awesome. Like that was also kind of my feeling like watching this Gamescom. It's like, okay, we're watching games that are not out yet while we have this game that we've been waiting for so long out right now. Why am I watching this stream? That was kind of me. I'm still like curious about all these games, but I was like, I just want to play Wukong, the game that I can actually play right now. So, and I got Outlaws as well. We can't say that, but I'm kind of like, how am I gonna juggle these games?
Your plate's too full. Your plate's too full. Speaking of my plate being too full.
Oh.
Speaking of that.
Oh no.
Shout out to somebody who gave us a very generous super chat, filling our plate over the rim. Cody Lee, thank you for the 10. Thoughts on Legacy of Kain remake and release update soon? Honestly, Legacy of Kain, a bit before my time. I think the first one was in like 96 and I was born in 97. So
yeah, but this should be for you then. It's a remake. So
yeah, well the point is I don't know what I'm missing. I don't know what I'm missing out on. So I'm just not familiar with it. I know I'm a baby, but yeah, I'm not too familiar with it. If they're gonna do a remake release, something or other, yeah, that'd be great.
Probably someone who's like looking forward to Dragon Ball Z knows about this. We should ask them.
Oh, Dragon Ball. Oh, Dragon Ball. But thank you for the super chat. Unfortunately, I just don't know much about it. I wish I had more to say, but it's very generous super chat, and I just honestly don't have much.
Yeah, I think it's a very generous super chat as well, but we are the wrong people, I guess. But we will think about you, Cody, when there is Legacy of Kain news and it crosses my timeline or whatever. We will bring it up.
Cody needs to hear about this. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. But I do think that people that are looking forward to this are like super probably like in tune with what's happening. So then we will be bringing old news, but hey.
Yeah. Well, speaking of old news, Gamescom happened. Most of you have probably already seen it, but we're going to talk about it because I think there were some, at least for me, some very exciting revelations.
Yeah.
But you mentioned at the top, you kind of gave a little hint that maybe there were some things you didn't like about the show. What are those things? What's your impression of the show overall?
I thought it was overall. I did not expect 2K to kind of carry it in terms of reveals, but it felt kind of weird in the sense that why did they feel the need to out of nowhere like announce these big games that we kind of knew were coming and then reveal also nothing about those games? It's like, okay, but this could have been like a thing last year, and then you did not steal the thunder from your other announcement, because they had Borderlands 4, Mafia, and Civilization at the show. And yeah, Borderlands was the first reveal, Mafia the final reveal. But maybe it is because their stock price went up significantly after after that Gamescom show. Probably because they announced that they are going to be that they're all coming in 2025. So Borderlands 4, Civilization, and Mafia, which is kind of crazy. I mean, we will have to wait and see. Like, they also have GTA, like they're the publisher of GTA as well. And we know GTA is October, November, December. So I think we can say Borderlands, Mafia, and Civilization. I mean, we know Civilization is, I think, in February. So we know Mafia and Borderlands, they're not going to release after September. Like, they're not going to put that next to GTA. They know what they have. So I thought that was interesting. But again, it's like a kind of nothing burger. Like, I normally would have been more excited if they... These felt like more announcements where it was like, yeah, okay. I mean, I would be shocked if they didn't do a new Borderlands.
Yeah.
And we, of course, the thesis.
Well, and Randy kept making tweets where he's like, we look forward to what we have to show you next. And it's like okay, like, I get it.
Like,
but
and they have like the dumpster fire of the movie right there. Look over here, we have a new game too. Like, maybe they made this teaser like a week after the movie bombed big time, because it's already coming to digital platforms like 3 weeks or something after the movie came out.
Because nobody's seeing it. I Noah.
I saw it.
I saw. Oh, I remember you meant it. Yeah.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine went to see it like, I think it was over the weekend. It was like Friday or Saturday or something. And he sent me a picture of the theater and he's like, dude, the crowds are overwhelming me. And he sent a picture and like literally the theater was completely empty except for him. So I just think everybody's decided this sucks and maybe they'll try it with streaming, but there's that. I agree. I do think it was strange seeing them kind of take the majority of reveals and really showcase it. I was almost certain Jeff was going to showcase Death Stranding 2, just like a trailer, and that was going to be his one more thing. I did not expect them to reveal and like officially announce the next Mafia game. And anybody who's like followed me for a while, you know that Mafia is near and dear to my heart. I've always loved the series. I love the setting. I love the vibe, the cinematography. I love Mafia. You know, it's had some rough treatment with like Mafia 3, and then some of the definitive editions were pretty buggy when they launched, but I think definitive edition, they nailed that, and I'm really excited to see what they've been working on here. And it looks like it's going to be very different.
That team has not released a game since Mafia 3.
Technically. I mean, they did definitive edition to do like engine upgrades, which was basically a new game if you look at like the original versus the definitive edition. But
2016, right? I think Mafia 3.
Yeah, Mafia 3 was 2016, and then definitive edition was 2020, I believe.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, and they had a lot of layoffs too, and so they
worked on a new IP, and yeah, they were trying that for the longest time, but that didn't work out, so they canceled that. So I really think they're like, because one of the announcements was that it's gonna be like more linear again. It really seems like the scope is maybe not as big as Mafia 3, and I think that kind of hurt Mafia 3. So I think they're going the right way, but they said like in 2022 that they were working on a new Mafia game, I think in August 2022. But that it was still far away. And now 2 years later, they're like, it's coming next year. I think we have to wait and see. But again, if it's like a 15-hour game, I can see that. get it out, get a win. Like they need a win. That studio
Yeah.
has not put out. I mean, Mafia Definitive Edition, I think, sold relatively well for what it was. It was also surprisingly good. So, I think it's cool that they are doing it. But in 2025, man,
It's going to
there's
be
no time.
like, there's actually going to be a problem with people running out of money. Like, I know we
Yeah.
all joke about that, like, oh, my poor wallet. No, next year it's going to be a problem. If you look at just the like third party AAA games that are all considered like must buys, it's easily like probably, well, now they're 70. So it's probably closer to like $700 to $1,200 worth of first party games or third party AAA games. Like, there's so many huge titles. And besides the money, time. Like, a lot of these games are supposed to be pretty big.
Yeah, and live service games will keep their updates going, of course. And there are probably going to be some games that we don't see coming. Like, did we expect the first Descendant to be as big as that it is? So
here's a question for you before we continue, because I'm just genuinely curious about your like priorities. The Horizon multiplayer game. Let's say it launches. Let's say it launches next to, like, let's say 2 weeks before GTA 6. Do you set it aside or do you set GTA 6 aside?
But it's before, so I can like
2 weeks
grind it
before.
and then
Yeah.
okay, 2 weeks is enough. I will, because I don't think we get like GTA 6 early. I think they're gonna be very protective of that. I think they're gonna take people hostage in their office and then they have to review the game. I think they're really gonna do old school shit like that, because
I was telling people in the stream the other day, I was like, no, there will be none of this send it to YouTubers for a quick review or a remote play session like Ubisoft does. It's gonna be, we're gonna fly you out and you're gonna get to play it, and we're gonna make you put your cell phones in a bucket, and then we're gonna do like, it's going to be like going to a White House press briefing that's like confidential. It's going to be crazy.
And constantly someone looking over your shoulder if you're not like taking a picture or with a second phone or whatever. It's going to be crazy. And then, it's going to be in a controlled environment, and everyone is going to give it 10 probably. And then everyone gets to play on launch day. But I do think like there are some things you can do to say that you're, for example, suddenly live in New Zealand. So I'm curious how they're gonna handle that, if people are gonna like tweak that, because then it's officially out in New Zealand, but then it's still like 20 hours before it's out in the US.
I mean, there have been a couple of games recently that have done synchronized global unlocks, so we could
Wukong did it, but that game was not physical. Like, there are gonna be a lot of midnight launches, so people in New Zealand are gonna go to a midnight launch and stream the game. Are they then gonna get
Here's what I think they're doing. Here's my theory, and I'm not even sure if it's a theory at this point. I think they announced, say, on the 20th of November or whatever it's gonna launch on. That's the official release date. But if you buy the deluxe premium ultra gold, whatever shark card diamond platinum pack for 120 total, you get 5-day early access. The physical copies go out on the 20th. Early access is available starting the 15th. But if you want access to it, it's only digital. Then they get increased margins.
Oh, and then they can have the set time.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually a good one.
I think
they're gonna do 1 day early access, just to like, and then and still people are gonna buy. Like,
still everybody's gonna buy it.
5 hours early access.
You get it 25 minutes.
100 euro extra.
Yeah.
I think people are gonna go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gotta be fascinating. But I think that might actually be a very smart thing for them to do, because otherwise you will get that weird the loopholes, and like I'm already thinking of loopholes. So I'm going live.
I worked at Best Buy back in like 2018 and for a while, but it was right around the time that a bunch of games were launching, like Spider-Man and Sekiro and some of those. And we had people like straight up break into the warehouse to steal stuff. There was one time, I'm not joking, we had these big steel like shelves in the back. If you've worked retail, I'm sure they have the same thing for stocking and stuff, but it was in the back of the warehouse, and we had cinder brick walls all around the building. And overnight, somebody came in, they hid behind a bush, and then they chiseled their way through the cinder block walls. And because they were stupid, they just happened to do that right where the middle of their hole was at a big steel pillar for those shelves. So they couldn't actually bring anything big out with them, like TVs or anything. But they drilled a hole in the cinder block and crawled around the steel pole and then stole copies of various games before they had launched, like broke into the steel cage we had them in. So if people were willing to do that for like Spider-Man, they're going to do it. And way more for GTA.
But I think that's why what you're saying makes on so many levels perfect sense. Like they get a lot of money. Like they don't have to cut anything to retailers for that insane edition, and they can control the launch because it's gonna go to a mom and pop shop like at the corner. Like they will get the game as well. They don't mind if it's like under the shelf. Give me a few $100 so you can get the game. It's gonna go crazy.
And they know still, that. I mean,
even with 5 days, it's still gonna break 3 days. Like it's gonna get like I can already like see the TikToks or whatever. Like my friend has it or whatever.
I mean, there were issues with
break into cars.
There were issues with just the trailer where YouTube employees were allegedly accessing footage before it was made public. Because they could access on the back end, oh, this is Rockstar's YouTube channel. Oh, look, there's a video that's scheduled to release at 2 p.m. I'm just going to download it, post it to 4chan. Like, and that was just for a trailer. I just think for people who are like, I don't know, I don't really care about GTA. You have to understand, it is on another level than probably anything else that's ever happened in gaming. It will be absurd.
In entertainment.
Yeah.
In entertainment, I think. Like, I think we recently heard, did we say that last year? Like, or last week, like GTA 5 now sold 200 million copies.
It's unfathomable.
That's crazy.
Like
That's
it is
more
made,
than like the PS5 and PS4 combined.
Yeah, it has made more money than any other piece of entertainment media in history. Like name a movie, it's made more. It's insane. Like it's unbelievable. So. Yeah, that's going to be 2025. Like that's one game in 2025. And then there's other big games that people are excited for that are also launching.
Yeah. But the early like period already is looking pretty crowded. Like Kingdom Come, of course, is now on February 11th. A week after that is about. I thought the Lost Records looked very cool. The new game from Donut, the Bloom and Rage.
About Bloom and Rage,
about it's from the Life is Strange makers, of course. But like they switch between 2 time periods. One is like a band, and it's kind of like colorful and fun. And something happens during that like time in space, and then you go to the future, where it seems like they switched like perspective. So when you play in the sort of in the past, you play third person, and then in the future or the present day. You play first person. But I thought it looked very cool. So I'm keeping an eye on that. Of course, choices, impact of those choices, etc., etc.
Yeah, so their games, cool. I love Don't Nod. I mean, they made like Vampire, for example, and Vampire is one of those underrated games I really like. It's just really interesting and different. There's not really another game like it that I could point to. So that's one that I appreciate from them. But Don't Nod, make some solid stuff. I think this is going to be like their other Life is Strange games. It's going to be played by a very devoted fan base. It probably doesn't break into the mainstream much, and just buckle up for some very toxic Twitter posts about it. But I do think the people that like Life is Strange stuff, it looks like it's going to be a solid Life is Strange type game.
And they announced that it will release in 2 parts, which is interesting. So they're gonna launch one, I think, in February and the other one in March. So still to kind of keep that episodic thing alive, but then do more the Netflix model where you release 2 parts instead of every month a new episode, because that doesn't work anymore. So
speaking of potentially not working anymore, Peter Molyneux came out and he presented some ideas for his new game. And the basic premise of the game is that you are playing as effectively a god set in the world of Albion. And this is the one where he came on stage and talked about their trailer, and then he shows the different things you can do. It's like a city builder mixed with, I don't even know how to describe it. It's very different. It's very quirky.
Like tower defense elements, because you put down turrets, like they're gonna be like waves of enemies coming to hunt you down. I mean, I at first I was like, ooh, okay, this is interesting. But then he showed the amount of things you could do. Like you could really combine weird things that should not be combined, like put a bread on a sword, and then you have a very weak sword. But yeah, it is possible. Or you could like make a house and make it very, very large. Like I think it's gonna be a fun let's play YouTube game for people, or maybe stream game where people are like, oh, try this, and then it's possible. So I was like, okay, I think it's fine that they gave some time to him and this game. Like if it was another, I mean, he did like a cube game. Do you remember that, where it was what is in the cube, and then everyone had to like keep touching the screen, and then after like a few days, one person would break the cube and get like a prize, and then the prize was like really sucky.
It's like you get a T-shirt signed by me.
Yeah.
He's always had very experimental ideas. Like where I remember seeing him first, of course he's done like Fable and stuff, but he got in trouble because with Fable, it's like, you know, he made all these promises of you can plant a seed in the ground and it will grow a tree. And as you play through the game, you can come back years later and that tree has sprouted into a beautiful big tree. And maybe the community has rallied around the tree, or maybe it's like a shrine to a local god and stuff. And then it ends up just not being in the game at all. So there's stuff like that. He also was the one that did the demo for Next Generation Artificial Intelligence. If you remember this one with Milo, it was like a Kinect thing,
right?
Yeah. And it was E3 2009, but this was like one of his big projects, was that he wanted to create an AI kid named Milo who you could actually talk with and have like emotional conversations with. And again, interesting idea, didn't end up being anything. So he's one of these guys that has a ton of ideas and he throws a lot of stuff out, and every once in a while he does a really good job and nails it, but there's also a lot of other stuff that gets thrown at the wall that's not that useful. But he seems really passionate about this. He's bankrolling the game himself with 20 employees who are veterans allegedly of the industry, and that's not cheap. I mean, as somebody that's looked into like starting a studio himself, it is expensive as hell. You gotta have a good chunk of change to be able to do it, and he's bankrolling it himself at this point. He probably finds a publisher or something at some point.
Yeah.
But still, like,
and
that's really
must
impressive.
have paid for that Gamescom like spot, because I think just like with Summer Game Fest, this probably costs money, or it's like, okay, you get a booth and then you also get a spot in the show. That's probably how they do it as well. And that's why Hojo first with like they just showed a very boring cutscene from Honkai Star Rail as like a 5-minute thing, and I was like, okay, why show this?
Because they're just like, you know, the 500,000.
I mean, we're sponsoring your whole event.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's at least something that's happening. It seems interesting. He seems passionate about it, and whether you love or hate his games, he is prolific, to say the very least. So that is a thing that's happening.
We have to look at some super chats. I see
Let's
that
do it.
We got quite a lot.
Let's do it.
Thanks everyone. That's very kind. But we've been
rambling.
Talking.
It's a good problem to have. Thank you, Logan LeBlanc, for the 5. Love the show. Phil Spencer lies again. Hope Xbox can turn it around, but I doubt it. Well, so I've heard a lot of discourse about this Phil Spencer thing, okay? Because basically what I imagine you are referencing is the interview where he mentioned like, oh, the games that are coming to PlayStation 5 next are not Starfield and Indiana Jones. In the context of the whole clip, he is talking about the 4 that they brought earlier this year. And he's like, of those 4, they're not Indiana Jones and Starfield. He doesn't say they're not bringing Starfield. He doesn't say they're not bringing Indiana Jones at some point. He just says of the first 4 they're doing, it's not Indiana Jones and Starfield. So I don't think he, technically speaking, lied. I think plans changed and evolved. And frankly, he just did an interview recently. And of that interview, it's basically just lots of corporate double speak, word salad. But effectively what he's just saying is, we just can't make enough money if we launch it exclusively on Xbox. It's just not going to work. So we're going to bring it to PlayStation later and get more money from them, which I can't really blame them for doing.
It wasn't for me, like, that was another weird thing. It was for me how they revealed it. I was like, what the heck are you guys thinking?
Let me see if I have the clip of it, because they showed it as like a big...
one more thing.
Yeah, like it was gonna like wow people and excite them, and I think instead it just ticked people off. Like the way Jeff was like, but there's more, and then it's coming to PlayStation, and some people are like, oh, okay, but I
was like, I just can't think of, like, the announcement aside, like how they announced it, which is crazy. That it's like they are basically making a big deal out of them taking an exclusive away from people. Like, they're like, screw you guys. Hey, cool kids over there, look at this. Like that's kind of how it felt. Like, why? Like, this should have been like at the bottom of a blog post. Like, oh yeah, it's also coming to PS5.
Yeah.
And then make a big deal about it closer to launch. To be fair, though, I'm like, why even announce it? What is the benefit for them to announce it right now? Because you're basically saying to the Xbox people, okay, you thought you had this cool exclusive that we made for you. So, yeah, you bought this box. We got you. We got cool games. Indiana Jones, huge franchise. Machine Games, one of our biggest teams. Now we're bringing it over to the other platform.
Yeah.
Sorry. And for the PS5 people, they're like, okay, you gotta wait, but it is coming. So it's for both sides kind of bad news.
I mean, I did see a funny take on X. Somebody was like, well, technically, it looks like PlayStation's going to get the better day one version of Indiana Jones because there's going to be patches and fixes. So they're actually winning, which is just funny. But I think I just want Xbox to be clear what the plan is and just stop talking out both sides of their mouth, or stop like refusing to be clear about it, because they're not really double talking. They're just being super hyper vague all the time. And if they're going to do this, if this is the policy, hey, big AAA stuff comes to Xbox and PC and Game Pass day one, and then PlayStation 5, it'll come 6 months after the fact. If they say that, that's the policy moving forward, easy peasy. People will get pissed off, but it'll blow over. People get used to it, and that's just how they're doing it. What I can't stand is just that it feels like Phil Spencer and the rest of the leadership at Xbox knows there's going to be blowback to this, and so they just don't want to tell anybody the bad news. So they wait until the last possible second, or if they do it in a venue like this, where I think they were expecting like a standing ovation to this big one more thing. And it's like, no, I'm part of it is it leaked ahead of time. We already kind of knew this was happening earlier in the morning, but still, yeah, it's just, I think they need to be clear what the policy is. And I think they're still in the trial period where they're trying to figure out whether it makes sense to bring these things day one or bring it 6 months later or not at all. Like, I get that, but all it's doing is ticking off the Xbox diehard fans, which, to be fair, there's not a ton, but I just think they need to be
but
clear.
they're losing them by the day now because like why would you? Like, it's still like you get it on Game Pass, but that's a subscription that costs now $20 a month. So a full year is pretty expensive. And I think on PlayStation you will probably, like, that's 3 games on PlayStation, 4 games if you buy like Game Pass Ultimate. Like, hey, maybe then there's probably a yearly deal. So 3 games on PlayStation. I mean, you're probably paying for some other games as well. You're not only playing on Game Pass. what is the incentive to get an Xbox? There's no incentive anymore because you cannot play the games that Sony is not releasing really this year. They don't have to because Black Myth Wukong carries them, and that's fine. But they have a ton of studios. Like, they at one point are gonna fire from all cylinders. So then you're like, okay, like, I don't see a reason for people to not switch to a PlayStation next generation.
I mean, fundamentally, the best combo right now, like demonstrably, is a PlayStation 5, or I guess next generation, PlayStation 6, and a PC. Like, just put your money towards that. You'll be much better off. Even like just PC, you can buy all the PC games. PlayStation is starting to bring all their first party stuff over to PC, and we have indications from their executives they want to do it even more aggressively. So probably faster and for their newest games. And Xbox, of course, is doing the same thing. Third party devs are going to do it, except maybe Rockstar, who's going to take an extra year, but eventually they do. So there's just really no reason to, like you said, to have an Xbox. And I think that they're aware of that, but I think that they're just embracing what was slowly happening, which is that people were abandoning the Xbox platform. So they're like, okay, well, we'll release more consoles, sure, but we're not going to pretend as though that's the centerpiece of our business anymore. It's just games distribution, and they win whether you buy Indiana Jones on the PlayStation 5, on Steam, or wherever.
Yeah, no, I mean, you could say they win, but on the other hand, if people buy an Xbox, they are more inclined to get Game Pass, and that seems to be like still one of their main revenue drivers. People on PlayStation are not gonna do it. I'm still like, what do you think? Why, like, announce it now? What is the incentive? Because if they announced it a few weeks before it was gonna come to PS5, if this was the plan, then they still maybe. Like, I also had someone in the chat yesterday. I know someone who was gonna buy an Xbox for Indiana Jones. No, they're not gonna do that anymore. Like, you're losing like, there's really no. It's like Sony announcing the PlayStation 5, like a year before the PS4. Like, people are then gonna wait. Like, why? You can also do this a few months before. Like, have the game have its moment on Xbox and PC, and then talk about another version.
Well, I think maybe, like, again, it goes back to the idea that they're using these events as basically data collection and just testing different policies out. Because it seems like to me, I totally agree. Why not release it in December for Xbox and then announce in May, hey, 2 weeks from now, we're bringing it to PS5. Why not do that? And I think it's because they want to see, okay, if people understand this is the new policy, do we see sales drop because people wait for PlayStation? Do we see people still buying it in droves? Does it really, like, is all the talk of people abandoning Xbox just Xbox fanboys that are very vocal on Twitter but don't really reflect the average consumer? You know, because again, we're in sort of a bubble. We talk about this stuff all the time. The vast majority of people who spend money on video games are the types of people that walk into a Target or Walmart and see the advertisement for Indiana Jones, like, oh, that looks really cool. Oh, it's just on Xbox? Oh, okay. Well, maybe for Black Friday, I'll get an Xbox and I'll buy that. You know, that's for a lot of people how they do it. And so maybe Xbox is just trying to gauge whether this actually has an impact or if it's just a lot of talk and speculation. But it feels weird they're using like a huge AAA game as like a guinea pig to test stuff, but
yeah, I mean, but maybe they are. Yeah, I think what you said as well. Like, they are probably not gonna sell a lot on Xbox of this game, and they have the Lucasfilm deal that they are gonna take up to 30%, probably just like with Spider-Man. So they have to get those sales, and yeah, that's on PlayStation. But then again, it's like, announce it a few weeks before. Then you still have to win in the holiday season. You could have the commercials. We have Indiana Jones, only place to play. Like, even if you knew you were gonna bring it to PS5, you could still say that. Like, that happens all the time. And then, okay, we got all our, hopefully, like, they also announced more Xboxes coming. Blah blah blah. They are still, Call of Duty is coming to Game Pass this year for the first time. Fable next year. Perfect Dark look pretty awesome. It feels like they're finally back in the race, but they're already. They got this train moving, and they're already jumping out of this train that they've been Like they're building these railroads for like a very long time, and they're already like, let's abandon that what we've been building towards
I mean,
because
it could be just as simple as somebody like Satya Nadella or the CFO of
probably.
Microsoft saying your consoles are losing market share every day. They're plummeting. Even though people know next year you got a lot of stuff coming, they're still losing market share. So we're going to start bringing it to other platforms because at least then we get money. And if that's what Satya tells Phil, whether he agrees with it, whether he thinks that's a brilliant idea, whether he thinks that, no, we got to play the long game and win over their trust again. Like, it doesn't matter. If that's what the big man in the big chair in the ivory tower says, that's what you're doing. So it's just more complicated than I think some people are making it out, where they're just like, no, Phil just hates gamers. It's like, no.
I mean, he said that also during that Gamescom interview just now. It's definitely true inside of Microsoft that the bar is high for us in terms of delivery, that we have to give back to the company because we get a level of support from the company that is just amazing in terms of what we're able to do. Of course, also looking at the Activision deal that they made.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it like this: how can we make our games as strong as possible and ensure that our platform continues to grow both on console, PC, and cloud? And I think it's just going to be the strategy that works for us. I mean, we already knew it, but Starfield when.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do Shattered Space, they get that out the gate, and then maybe they announce at the Game Awards it's coming to PlayStation 5. I honestly don't know how well it does on PlayStation because PlayStation fans have been some of the...
Still, fine.
You think
probably.
fine? I mean, I'm genuinely interested because I really have no idea how it does. But Demario, thank you for the super chat as well. I have that weird feeling that most people are sleeping on Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2, which for someone from Eastern Europe, Poland, like me, is very sad to witness. I'll tell you what, that game, it's still capturing eyes, and I think part of it is right now we haven't gotten like raw gameplay. They're doing a gameplay reveal.
No, they have shared it.
Oh, is it already? Was it today?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, they did a gameplay reveal. And so I think that's going to start to do a lot of heavy lifting. What?
I was like, I'm going to look at this gameplay. It's going to be like a few 100,000, but it's only at 13,000, but maybe someone else like published it.
Warhorse, they posted 12 hours ago and it's at
that's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have like a dedicated Kingdom Come channel as well, 7K, and that's only 13. But yeah, that's good. I really think this is gonna be one of those games that is gonna do just fine, like a Dying Light 2 situation, maybe, right? Where, I mean, maybe Dying Light 2 was like that was pretty big, but
or maybe if anything, just like word of mouth is gonna do a lot, because this is just like the first game. People who played it were like, "Hey, it's a little clunky, but you gotta play it because once you get past the clunkiness, it's amazing." And it seems like this is going to be a similar story, but if they've made significant improvements to polish and refinement and stuff,
it looks stunning. They do something with the lighting, and it really looks insane. Like riding around in this village, the gameplay is. I'm looking at it now.
They did a very good job. Yeah, it's the first game's really, really good. And I hope this game is successful. And I guarantee you guys, I mean, I'm going to be covering this a lot because I'm a huge fan of Kingdom Come. So I'm going to be covering it, and hopefully more people find out about it because it's awesome. So
yeah, I think it's going to do just fine. I think it's going to do well.
Samaya, thank you for the super chat as well. I have a complaint of Wukong boss fights. A lot of bosses just keep running away from you after their combos, and you have to keep chasing them. It's like Elden Beast in Elden Ring. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero would never do this.
No, because there are no good boss fights in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. It's just another humanoid character doing come here, and you're like flying like vertically, and we don't know what's happening. Did you see the pre-order outfits for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero?
Yeah,
they're just recolors. They did not even give these characters proper outfits. They're all almost naked. What is happening? And Wukong has way cooler bosses, but maybe they run away often. I maybe agree with.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with Black Myth is that they really want to try and force you to play aggressively, and so they really push it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the like pre-order deluxe whatever cosmetics are just recolors, which is unfortunate.
Do you have them on screen now or not?
I was trying to find it
share
and I
them.
couldn't, so I gave up.
I'm gonna like share that with you.
Okay, because we'll show you guys, anybody watching at home, because it is like
It's really bad. It's like you can't get away. Why is someone paying for this?
yeah,
It's
these
like
are
a
the
different-
pre-order bonus. Like, even if you're really into Dragon Ball, this is pretty lazy. Like, come on.
Oh my god! How can people say this is a good game?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know Dragon Ball.
Kidding.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on from that. Sorry, Samaya. 53 Nights put long red braided hair on Nicola Avocado's face, and you've got Horizon Forbidden West Aloy. Oh, Nico. What is his full name? It's like Nico Kata.
What am I looking at?
Avocado.
This is I can't sleep anymore.
He's like a lol cow that does mukbangs and eats tons of stuff. And personally,
I think this is an insult to Aloy.
I think that's a
right?
fair conclusion. Yes.
And nobody liked the super chat, so I'm proud of the chat. Thanks everyone. 53 nights. Thanks for your money, but I'm gonna have nightmares.
Oh man. Okay. Thank you, Nate. We'll catch up on these, then we'll keep going through Gamescom stuff. Nate, thank you for the 10 Australian dollary dues. As someone with autism and a slight disability challenges more disability challenges more reflex timing, but can compete God of War, but couldn't plat because I couldn't beat Nya and King Huff. Do you think I could play Black Myth? Oh, if you have a disability with like reflex timing, specifically issues.
I would not recommend it.
Yeah, it's very much tied into reflexively dodging and stuff. If anything, it's like more dependent on reflexes than most action games. So I would say, unfortunately, it probably is not going to be a great fit. Maybe they have more accessibility options they add later or that I'm not familiar with, but yeah, impulsively
There
I'd
are
say
really
probably
not a lot. No, there's
Yeah.
not a lot of accessibility. Just the typical, really like the old school things. Like, yeah.
Unfortunately. But thank you for the super chat, my friend. Demario, also thank you for the another super chat. Look, PC Master Race won the console wars. Get over it. Hey, you're not arguing with anybody here. I totally agree. And Zolt Pastor, thank you for the 10. I'm just an average gamer, but I only bought an Xbox because PS5 was out of stock back then. I definitely want to buy a PS5 next month because there is a better quality of exclusives. Also, PS5 Pro date, as far as I know, it's still supposed to be this year. Yeah,
November probably.
So I'd probably wait because at the very least, I think the base PS5 gets a price cut, and then the PS5 Pro probably takes like a $600 price point, maybe $700. We don't really know yet, but that's allegedly still this year. So I would just wait till probably November or Christmas ish.
Yeah, if you want to, I mean, if you're ready to spend $800, let's get crazy because it's gonna be a very expensive machine. I mean, the PS5 is still 500, 550 in Europe, so they're not gonna make it a cheap one, and I don't think they're gonna lower the price of the PS5. So.
Yeah, I've been saying for years at this point, I think that the PlayStation fan base is willing to spend a lot on hardware if you provide it and if it is powerful. Like if they have a PS5 Pro that actually earns the $800 price tag because it's that much more powerful, it doesn't need the crazy upscaling just to run at 60 with Black Myth. Like I think you will see people buying it, and I think the other thing is it's got to be visually distinct. It's got to look extra crazy, you know, not just like a shrunk down version of the PS5. It's got to look silly,
crazy.
Yeah, you know, like the PS4 Pro where
your TV.
Yeah. Like when they did the PS4 Slim, and then it had like the two it looked like a sandwich basically, the two pieces with the little gap between them, and then the PS4 Pro was just three. It was like a triple decker sandwich with 3 pieces of bread. I think that's what they should do with the PS5 Pro. I think they should just add in another wing, and so it's like 6 inches thick. I think that'd be really funny. and you'd still see people putting it front and center in their media stands, even though it won't sit flat. And then lastly, Alphatron. Thank you for the 5. Y'all see those Crimson Desert videos they've been dropping, like 4 boss fights? Yeah, and they're looking mighty good.
You can play. That's the demo that they have at Gamescom. So fighting those bosses, which is awesome. I'm not sure if that was like the best choice for them, because then maybe people will walk away thinking, oh, it's just a boss rush or something. But it is an open world, so. But yeah, I think having an open world demo, a lot of things can probably break. So having just a boss arena and a boss you can fight makes also sense.
Yeah. But transitioning back to the core discussion of Gamescom, I guess to just carry this forward, kind of speed run of some of the stuff shown off. So we've talked about Mafia, we've talked about Indiana Jones, we've talked about Masters of Albion. They have a Squid Game that Netflix is doing, a Squid Game, which is a thing. Batman Arkham Shadow got a full gameplay trailer reveal, and it looks like it's going to make me viciously sick, but it actually looks like it's a solid game. It's just an Arkham game.
Kind of looks like Nexus, like Assassin's Creed Nexus. I kind of got that vibe from it, like pretty, decent quality. Probably like a good length. But like it's still like not the same. I don't know why. It's like they're trying to make this a console game, and it's not. And I think that Batman Arkham VR did a very, I don't know, like the main gameplay was more the detective mode, right? What were you fighting in that game?
No,
like you were throwing the battering, I think.
You could, so like there's one point where you like are looking down at Penguin from the gargoyle, but every time you would move, it would just do like a fade to black, and then you appear in the new spot.
Yeah.
And so like this is actually fully fluid. They show you gliding, you can walk through different environments. Like there's real combat of you actually punching enemies.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks pretty cool.
The grapple could actually work, because that's of course the thing with VR. If you're moving around, that's kind of what my issue with Nexus. Like I was moving around in the game while sitting down, and then you will get motion sick quite fast. But I think maybe the grapple hook is a nice, instead of the teleport, it's like it makes sense for your brain to move to a location like that. I don't know though, still, like
won't be for everybody. And I agree, it doesn't replace another Arkham game, which I think is what they're trying to do. At least that's how they're marketing it. And
do you think Jeff, like how he announced it, it felt like he knew? He was like, Batman are a new game in the Arkham universe, blah blah blah, and then he ended with the Meta Quest 3, and he kind of sounded sad, or he knew. Remember what happened with Summer
I
Game
think I think they gave him like word for word what he needed to say, and they can't control his intonation or anything, so he's like, a new Arkham game from a very talented studio, available on the Meta Quest 3, and I agree. I think he was having flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly. What did you think, real quick, about what he said at the end? The Game Awards. I think they're just talking maybe about like that it's the 10th because the 10th anniversary. No, never mind. I thought they were like kind of teasing something big, because he was like the end of one decennium going to the next or something, but that's probably because it was like the 10th Game Awards. Never mind. I thought maybe he was teasing like the next Xbox was gonna be there, like something crazy. But that was like a thought that was going through my mind. But that's probably too crazy. Cool, though.
Yeah, no, I do think he was having flashbacks though with it.
Yeah.
I think you're right. There were other reveals, like Secret Level revealed a sort of anthology series they're going to do celebrating video games. This is going to be Amazon Prime exclusive, and it's basically just going to be a series of short films, from what I understand, based on these games, which is cool. Now, funny thing, they go through all of the logos here, and I noticed one that I thought was very quickly passed over. Concord.
Yeah. They're
And
really
then
gonna
it's
make this a thing.
literally okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames. Like that's the extent of it. I
No, but did they not show the oh yeah, the logo, yeah.
Yep, they got the
But
logo.
that's crazy because they have PlayStation as one of the logos as well. So it really seems like Concord is gonna get its own episode.
But this also
Maybe they're
looks like
banking on
Bloodborne
that.
to me. I mean, it could just be PlayStation stuff. It could be that they have a Bloodborne one too. It could be, I mean, it's literally 2 frames for this one, but this looks like the old Hunter's outfit.
Yeah, but they have like Jin Sakai as well and Kratos. So I really think they have like one where all the PlayStation, like kind of an Astrobot type episode where just like the best of the PlayStation, and a Concord episode.
That would be really funny if
That would be
Concord gets its own episode, dude.
And it's shut down before that. I mean, that's maybe why they had to launch it now. They had like all these things planned. They had to keep moving.
Yeah, they said they've been working on this for 3 years. When did PlayStation buy Firewalk?
2 years ago?
Like 2 years ago? So like they bought Concord Studio and presumably immediately turned around.
No, it was 1 year ago. April
Just
2023.
So they bought them. They were in talks before that, I'm sure. But like they immediately got going on this type of thing, spending millions on all this promotional stuff that was going to launch 6 months to a year afterwards. It again just reaffirms the idea that they really thought it was going to blow up and be huge, and so they were going to plan for that. And
Or they hope this will make it huge, kind of like what Overwatch did as well. Like those cinematics, of course. Like maybe it's a very good episode and people are like, what is this? I want to check it out. I don't know. Sounds like an expensive campaign though.
Yeah.
But it looks cool.
It looks really cool. It's different. And it's like he said on stage, he's like, we get asked all the time from people that see these cinematics we make for games. They're like, why can't we have movies like this? And that's basically what these are. They're just going to be short films. What's interesting is this is Kratos in like a metropolis city with cars. Yeah. So I think
that episode's going to be really weird.
Yeah, I think you might be right that this might be like a universe merging. Kratos shows up, and then like everybody is popping out.
It's kind of like those PlayStation ads they sometimes have, right? Where someone in the living room is playing, and then outside Spider-Man is swinging around, Kratos is walking over cars.
Those might be ads that these guys made, for all we know. Like that very well could be their work. So yeah, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah, for sure. And overall, Amazon Prime is just killing it. Like they have been releasing Fallout, of course, The Boys. They've been doing some very, very good stuff this year.
Other good stuff. Marvel Rivals got a release date. Got to look at a couple of new playable characters as well. And I mean, the game just this is what like you need your game to be if you want it to pop off in the live service field. It's just got to have this level of depth, complexity, and frankly be free to play just to get people to try it. We tried it, me and my friends, and we had a great time.
Oh, really?
We're gonna no doubt jump in because we've played like Overwatch, we've played tons of different live service games because it's just something we can all do together. But this was one where we tried it and it was like, okay, we're actually having fun. And then some of the other stuff were like just quality of life improvements, like the full game replay system is just so freaking cool. If you're like, hey, I had a really cool snipe. Any game you've ever played, you can go and do a full replay of it from anybody's perspective because they have all of the inputs recorded, and it's just freaking badass. Like little stuff like that is just, in my view, should be standard.
December 10th is when it's coming. Still this year.
6th.
Oh, 6th. Then what was 10th? Oh, Indiana Jones.
I think Indiana Jones is the 9th, or is it the 10th?
Well, there was something the 10th.
I don't know. Either way, yeah, Indiana Jones is the 9th. I don't know. There's something on the 10th.
The secret level, the one we just talked about.
Oh,
December 10th. Yeah, cool.
We also got a dropped trailer and shadow drop for, of course, Game of the Year 2023, Starfield. And I've already tried it. I did a little video, and I tried video on the main channel about it. Long story short, I think it's a good addition. It makes it much faster to get around the planet surfaces. It's definitely like a little clunky. It's very lightweight. It's very sometimes difficult to steer, but it honestly holds up very, very well. There's of course popping and stuff once you start going max speed, but that's to be expected. And overall, I think it's a solid addition to the game. There still are plenty of other bugs and things that you can see, but on the whole, I think it's a solid addition. I'm glad it's here.
Do you think you had a hand in this edition? Like, you've been very vocal about the vehicles even before launch, and I was like, I don't know, like it depends on the size of the planet, and if we land close to the objective, I don't see a problem. But it turned out that yeah, it is kind of nice. I was surprised that you could also use it in the cities.
Yeah, they've been very open with it, and I mean, in my 8-hour saga video on Starfield, I looked at a ton of interviews and we timelined them out. And like there were interviews Todd was giving right before launch, a month and a half before launch, where he was saying there are no vehicles. You use boost packs. That's what you do. And then the game launches, and so at some point that changed and they decided to start working on this. I don't know if I had a hand in it. I don't know if Todd's ever seen one of my videos. I think it'd be really funny if he had, and it was one of those where I have like a cardboard cutout of him in the background. I just think that would be so funny for him to watch that. But I don't know. I have been very, very vocal about it, and it's one of the big I told you so things of the last few years for me as a content creator. Was just, to me, it seems like such an oversight. It's baffling they didn't think of it or see it as a problem before the game launched. And then once people got their hands on it, they're like, oh yeah, running for 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes straight with nothing to reach a point of interest you've already seen before, not that fun. Maybe
But
if we had a
it's
rover, it'd speed it up.
anti-gravity, you fly. It's cool.
You have a boost pack. It's so cool. Or what did he said in the interview? He was like, it's just really, really, really cool. Like he was trying to search for a word and couldn't find it. It was funny. But all told, I think it's a good addition. It doesn't change the fundamental issues with Starfield, which are just that the POIs are repeated and it's just more of the same. This lets you see the same points of interest faster, which is technically an improvement, but it doesn't fix the core problem that people had. But it is a step in the right direction, and I think that if they keep making improvements like this and acknowledging that maybe some of the feedback was constructive, we weren't just trying to be whiny pieces of crap, then they could continue making it better and better. And when it goes to PS5, it's maybe going to be a really, really solid offering. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious if the vehicle will be used in the new DLC. I would be surprised. I would not be surprised if it's not, because that seems to be like a concise, like smaller experience, more handcrafted. So
my guess is that
would be funny.
I think they were in the works on the DLC before they decided to do the rover, because I think they probably greenlit the rover looking at some of the reviews and feedback in the month or two after launch. So I think they were already working on the DLC, but I fully expect them to do like a little side quest in the expansion where it's like, oh, you want to race your buggy against me or beat my time. Maybe it's not even racing because they'd have to make an AI for the NPCs driving it. But maybe it's just like, we're going to go run a loop and it's a little racetrack. It's like the director's cut of Death Stranding where just randomly there's a racetrack for some reason. Maybe they do something like that. But I wouldn't expect it to be like part of the main quest or anything, but I'd love to be wrong.
I'm actually surprised that it didn't even cost for that big of a bump on Steam.
Oh, really?
The update launched, like it had like 10K players or almost 11K concurrent on Sunday, and yesterday it's just like similar. Nothing changed.
I mean, I think it's just... Okay. I think a lot of people are smart enough to realize like it probably doesn't change that much in the moment-to-moment gameplay, because the rover's nice, but again, what's the other big complaint with Starfield? Constant load screens between doors, between cities, between all that. This doesn't do anything to address that. This is for the very specific activity of landing on a random spot on a planet and driving and exploring between points of interest, and that's something that a select few players are doing on the reg. So, I'm not that surprised by it, but what I was surprised at was the transition away from a hyper cartoony art style for Civilization 7. Like Civ 6 was very cartoony. This one is much less cartoony. It's a little bit more realistic with the individual assets. And I greatly prefer this art style. I think this looks really solid. I haven't seen the gameplay deep dive. I think they did it already, but maybe that's in a day or two. But I haven't seen the gameplay explored, so I don't know what they've done there. But Civilization is one of those games that I like to play on airplanes, like on a Switch or a handheld or a laptop. It's just a good vibe game just to chill out. So I'm excited to see what they do with this, because it seems like they've been working hard and not just recycling the same thing over again. So there's that. Yeah. Monument Valley 3 is coming to Netflix Gaming
on December 10th.
On December 10th. So that's a thing. Are you one to ever play a game on Netflix? Is that something you would ever do?
If they release a Horizon game on Netflix. I mean, they did like they did announce an Assassin's Creed game for Netflix at the showcase 2 years ago. So whatever that's gonna be, I will totally try that out. I think.
I don't have a Netflix subscription, and I really don't want one. And so seeing this, like,
phone?
Yeah, don't you have phones? I like Monument Valley stuff. I like how it's just basically an acid trip if you want to just break your brain with the kind of optical illusion stuff they do. It's awesome. They're beautiful. But I'm just not gonna subscribe to Netflix for that. I'm good. I'm good. What's also really good is Monster Hunter Wilds.
Okay.
That spider.
I still. Yeah, it looks scary. I'm already like I'm not looking forward to that urgent quest. That's probably gonna be a tough one. But I still think they need a trailer where it's not the desert area. Like I don't know who's in charge there, but like that it seems like there's only one area. Now we finally got like another area. And they're of course way bigger, so maybe there will be less areas in total. But yeah, it kind of looks samey. Like they have to go for a overview trailer, like bam, bam, bam. It's huge. There are like many worlds. I still need to be blown away by it. It right now really seems like Monster Hunter World really felt like a huge step up. Of course, coming to console, we only had the online game, I think, on PC. But that was only launched in Japan, I think. But yeah, that was like, wow, this looks insane. We're used to these Vita 3DS or even Wii graphics. Like we're not used to this. And whilst I know it looks on many levels really awesome, but I'm not as, oh my god, crazy about it as I thought I would be when you would think, oh, it's a next-gen Monster Hunter. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's in the same vein sort of as Assassin's Creed Shadows, where they were faced with a couple of options. They could go the route of like, we're going to totally overhaul the lighting system, material systems, texture systems, and everything, but it's probably going to play identically to Monster Hunter World. Or we can lean into using that power and the SSDs and stuff and increase interactability, increase scale and scope of levels, and they decided to go that route, which I'm not sure if that's necessarily the wrong choice or anything, but I do think you're right in that it doesn't feel like a huge leap forward. I played Monster Hunter initially on the base PS4, and so this compared to that is a pretty sizable leap. But if you've played Monster Hunter recently on like a PC, for example, it looks better if you're looking and pausing and comparing like hair density and the physics of the brush and the particle effects. But just knee-jerk reaction, yeah, it's like, oh man, kind of looks like Monster Hunter World 1.5.
Yeah, but they know what they need to do, and the Monster Hunter World was insanely popular. I have more than 20, like the most popular Capcom game ever. The DLC sold half of the base game. That's like unheard of for DLCs. Maybe Shadow of the Erdtree will reach that as well, but usually DLCs sell way, way less. So obviously they know what they're doing. I'm looking at the Steam wishlist, like top wishlist chart right now. It's number 4. Warhammer 40k number 2, by the way. That game is gonna be massive. Good for them. But so yeah, and also the weapon reveals they did before Gamescom. There's a lot of engagement on it, and I'm sure it's gonna be fine. Like for me personally, I'm just like I want to see a bit more of the overall scope. Like what other regions are we going to? Every time I see the desert land, I'm like, sure, that was fun the first time you showed it, but then all the weapons were in the desert lands. Then this new trailer still in the desert lands, and we saw it at Summer Game Fest, also in that wasteland region. I'm like, is this the only thing you got? But they luckily showed the forest, and like you said, that spider looks insane.
Yeah. I think, they still do have a pretty long runway on this.
No release date is because they want to launch it before April. They like Capcom has nothing in this financial year apart from that game that everyone already forgot. The tower defense game.
Oh yeah,
Gami.
Yeah, Kinitsugami.
Yeah, Kinitsugami.
I almost called it Path of the Waitress, but that's not right. But yeah, I think that they're probably waiting to see where some other stuff lands, but I think I think it's gonna pop off, of course. And you're not playing Monster Hunter for like the photorealistic graphics and cutscenes. You're playing it because it's Monster Hunter, and so I agree. I think that this one's gonna pop off as well. One that I'm still not sold on though that we gotta touch on is coming from Funcom. And this, of course, is Dune. What is your opinion of Dune?
I really think that it looks super ambitious. I looked at it and I was like, damn, that like 100 players in this world trade, and they have like these huge events. I do worry that after a few hours of playing, you kind of understand the loop, and that's kind of what it is. The combat also looked kind of like, I really got Red Faction vibes from it, like the newer titles. I think what they were capable of, coming from Conan Exile, I think it looks really good for what they probably were able to do, and they totally nailed the sort of the vibe from Dune, in my opinion. And I just personally like the movies, but like there are no creatures in the sand, right? Apart from the sandworms. Like they have like these outposts where they fight some enemies. I'm just kind of curious, similar to the Avatar game where you're constantly fighting the RDA. Like, what is the long term like loop for this game? Still though, the play spaces looked awesome. I think I'm really like, I'm not gonna play it. Like, I wish this was a single player game. I think a Dune single player open world could be way more exciting. So yeah, I am curious that they are going a bit maybe too ambitious with the 100 players in the world, the economy, and it seemed like a lot of moving systems in that game.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as somebody that does not tend to play a lot of games like this. And it's like, I can see the appeal. I can see how some people could like no life this game and get really, really into it. And I mean, obviously with these guys' background, I think they know how to make a game that's pretty deep. But there is the impression that, okay, you guys are doing a lot of stuff. And when you're doing a lot, it's really tough to nail that right at launch. So I would expect this is one of those games that launches, has tons of problems, takes months or even, years to get to the point it really needs to be realizing the vision. But once it reaches that, I'm sure people are going to really eat it up. No doubt. Might not be my cup of tea, but it seems interesting at the very least.
Yeah, and that's I think what you really saw the moment they showed combat. They used like camera move, like they made it more exciting than it's probably is. But I still think if you like the franchise, walking around in that world, like going on an adventure with a friend in that helicopter thing that they have, I think it's still gonna be pretty awesome. So I just worry that, yeah, you're all going after that resource, of course, that they have. I do worry that there's like one event that you're just repeating over and over, and apart from that, you're fighting some outposts that are not that exciting, and that's kind of the gameplay loop. But we will see. I was surprised they showed that much though of the game.
Yeah, no, I think they're really trying to show people there's a lot here and remove that question from people's minds. The other couple things I've got to mention, of course, we saw Little Nightmares 3, and then we also saw what Tarsier Studios is working on. That's the studio that did 1 and 2, and then they transitioned and did this. And it's in the same style, same vibe as Little Nightmares, but it's called Reanimal, and it seems just particularly trippy and crazy. I love this kind of stuff. I know it's not for everybody, but I like playing through actual nightmares, so I am here for it. Are you gonna play these games? Do they intrigue you?
No, not really. Just simple. I got Dragon Ball that's taking a lot of hours. So
I love this stuff.
No time.
I love how freaky they are. So I am here for it.
I want to shout out the Dying Light thing. What did you think of that? Dying Light the Beast. So for people who are unfamiliar, they kind of teased it already. The Beast is coming or something like that. And then we saw already that they had a trademark for Dying Light the Beast, but it did not have 2. And turns out that this is a standalone thing that they're doing, a 20-hour adventure, and they're bringing the main character from the first game back. And it seemed like it was a Dying Light 2 DLC that they had kind of teased. And at one point, that's what they are saying. I think there's something else going on. But at one point, they were like, yeah, it's too big. It turned into its own standalone thing. But I think what it probably is they know, okay, if this is a Dying Light 2 branded thing, then way less people are going to care about it. So yeah, they're releasing it as a standalone thing, which I think is really smart because it's going to bring back way more people that are never going to boot up Dying Light 2 again. But I looked at I followed the Dying Light, or like it was on my Reddit homepage, like the Dying Light subreddit, and they were kind of angry about it. Like they hoped that, like they felt like they were promised more in terms of like that the Dying Light 2 story would move forward, or that choices they made would matter, and that the developers were kind of hinting at that, and now it's completely separate instead of being part of Dying Light 2. And yeah, I kind of get it. If you spent a lot of time in that game, you were promised this DLC, and then it's suddenly something different. What they are doing, though, if you bought like the super expensive edition for Dying Light 2, you get this for free, which I think is a pretty nice thing, because what do you think it costs? I was kind of surprised by that.
Oh, I don't actually
20
know.
hours.
20 hours. I'm going to guess $40.
Yeah, 40. That's
40.
That's a lot. I thought 30 when they
I mean, people paid $70 for Spider-Man 2, which was like $15. Granted, that's like a big
new game. Like this is kind of Mirage territory. In that sense, Mirage was 50, but still Mirage. I think there are gonna be a lot of like Dying Light 2 things in this. Like you will really notice this was a DLC. Like
I was already noticing the parkour little snippets they show. It's the same stuff. Like I don't know. I'm open to it, but I think you're right. I think it's the right move to do this as a standalone thing, because inevitably, if you see Dying Light 2 : whatever, people are like, oh, a DLC for that game I played like years ago. Oh, meh.
Yeah.
And so exactly. I understand why they did it. This is a huge investment for them, and you got to get that cash money to pay the bills. And I mean, speaking of paying the bills, Demario, thank you for your membership. Thank you for that. Jack, thank you also for the $2 super chat. Armor Core 6 with Keanu Reeves. Yes, it looks like Keanu Reeves is going to be, at least his likeness is going to be in one of the anthology episodes that they're doing. So that was very interesting. I didn't see that coming. And then Samaya, thank you for the super chat. Jor, why do you have a separate screenshot of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero? It's almost like you want to play it subconsciously, but you don't want to admit it. That's a great question.
That's a good question. Yeah. I'm not going to answer that.
No comment.
No comment. Like, why do you think I hide my trophies? Like, I don't want people to know what I'm actually playing.
He
when
has
I'm not
6,000
Yeah.
hours. I don't even know if he's been alive
Yeah.
that long. It's crazy.
I'm just salty that they are like giving me those skins. I bought that edition already. And
Yeah. He bought it 5 times just for good
Yeah.
measure, and now he's gonna have so many skins.
I want to like give it away to my friends because they were never gonna play it. But if they got it for free, they might boot it up one night. So that's worth it for me.
just to know there's
So
a
I can, like,
little
beat
bit
them- beat
more,
them.
a little
Yeah.
more Dragon Ball in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that. I mean, I guess to wrap all this up, what are your closing thoughts on opening night live and Gamescom, and what are your takeaways? What are you most excited for? All the questions.
I mean, it was just updates of things we already knew. I was surprised by the 2K things, but it didn't really do a lot for me because, again, like you said, we're super in tune. Like, we knew this was coming already. They already said that they were doing a Mafia game, and of course they're gonna do Borderlands 4, and that was already teased a lot as well. 2025 for Borderlands is like, sure, and Mafia, I don't believe that that's 2025, but they are touting that. So that was kind of a surprise. I don't know. There was nothing that was like, I mean, that I did not know about yet, that I'm like, I can't wait. That is mostly my overall take of it. I thought the show overall was fine. It's like next year is gonna be crazier. Like, this year's has been pretty light, and then for Gamescom to still have some pretty nice stuff, I think is pretty great. But I was missing some things. Like, why did Crimson Desert not launch a new trailer here? Where was Ubisoft with maybe a new Assassin's Creed thing or something? I was kind of missing that. Sony was absent completely. So, yeah. If you were paying attention to what was going to be there were, apart from the 2K things, not a lot of surprises. So, I'm overall, this is exactly what I expected. And the new things I wish, like, show a few like a moment of gameplay from Borderlands. If you're launching next year, why announce it now if you basically got nothing to show?
Yeah, I agree. Borderlands. I mean, I think I'm not the target audience of Borderlands. Like I said, the extent of my experience with it was like college, played a lot, but it was usually on like snow days when we couldn't go to class. And, you pop a little edible, you kind of vibe out, and you play some Borderlands, just turning your brain off. And I remember it fondly, what I do remember. They were strong edibles. But having said that, I like, it's just not really for me. And so that really didn't do a lot of exciting. I think the Indiana Jones thing, the trailer it felt very corporate because they got Troy Baker up there. Love that.
Yeah.
And he's like, you could tell that they had done market research. What is the most commonly what are the sticking points for people? And they're like, people don't like the first person thing. And so Troy Baker's like, and the magic of having it in first person is that we all get to be indie. It's like, okay, like, I get that that's like the marketing talk, like, but it just felt so much like they were trying to counter frustrations they had heard in the comment sections online.
Yeah.
Like, I understand why they're doing that, but I don't know if you need a whole trailer on a big stage like this to do that. Beyond that, Mafia's reveal, super exciting to me. That was a genuine surprise. I did not see that coming, and I thought that was great. I also am very skeptical of the window. I would not be surprised if that gets pushed even further. But beyond that, I mean, the stuff I found most exciting were like Little Nightmares, Reanimal, Kingdom Come 2 looks great, but I already kind of knew that. But overall, I think it was a solid show, and I don't think there was a whole lot of filler like there's been in the past, where it feels like, this mobile game company paid Jeff to take 10 minutes and show this. There were still a couple of little things like that, but on the whole, it was pretty well paced, and I'm just pretty pleased with it. And it just, once again, makes me feel like 2025 is going to be insane.
I also now that to think of, like, there was no trailer that I watched again. Like, last year you had the Crimson Dead. I watched that a couple of times. there was no trailer this year. I was like, let's watch that again. That looked so awesome. It was more the promise of what the game might be. Also, Reanimal, like it still was kind of a teaser. Arc Raiders, like they really hyped that up. Oh, it's gonna be here again. Remember that cool game? CGI. Like there was like nothing cool that I was like, yeah, oh my god, this is like actual gameplay that looks stunning. Apart from I think the Kingdom Come kind of delivered on that, but like that, it was kind of similar to the previous trailers they already dropped. So we kind of knew that it was gonna look great. But.
Yeah, I think it's always tough also because we are in the trenches with this stuff, and so we see it day in day out. So it takes a lot to surprise us, which is why like I was so genuinely shocked when they're like, "Oh, Mafia." It's like, what the hell is even that? Like we heard it rumored maybe at Summer Game Fest because they're like Take-Two's going to be there and it's Civ 7 will get a trailer later. Like that was basically the extent of it. And so I do understand the feeling and sentiment, but like overall, I was pretty happy. I was pretty pleased. And you know, I think now a lot of eyes are of course on Ubisoft launching Star Wars Outlaws soon and then moving on to Assassin's Creed. Then we've got a few other big games through the end of this year, but next year it's going to start early and it's going to basically not stop. Maybe we have a little lull in July again, but next year is going to be madness. It's going to be stupid.
Yeah, so. Insane. But yeah, I think it's like a good time to be a gamer. Like we sadly have, of course, all these layoffs. But the amount of games are only increasing, it seems. Mm-hmm. So that's crazy.
The thing with layoffs is that there's many different types. And, you know, there's layoffs because of budgetary reasons and the company's failing, so you got to cut costs. And then there's layoffs as a result of like restructurings, which is what's happening at, say, Bungie, where they're also hemorrhaging money, but PlayStation thinks they can rework it into a team that actually can generate profit again. And with a lot of the layoffs in the industry, it just seems as though it is a reaction to bloated budgets and projects that they're realizing we're never going to turn a profit. And I mean, I think even to an extent, to go full circle on this to what we talked about at the very top, which is Concord, I think that is an example of somebody like Sony just kind of accepting what everybody else was already seeing, which is that this was probably, it's just not going to do well. Let's just get it out, move on, and try to make progress. And I think that's why they canceled The Last of Us online game, because they were like, we could probably get it where it needs to be and it might be successful, but at some point we just got to decide which path we're taking and stick to it. And if people get upset, they get upset and we just move on. That's why I hope that even Xbox with Indiana Jones is going to be clearer moving forward and is going to be able to just say 6 months after they launch our first party stuff, it's going to PlayStation.
Yeah, but then you're like holding, I don't know. Then you're like, then you have to do that all the time. While maybe it might not make sense for other games. So, yeah. But what they're doing now doesn't work. So they have to think. But I think your point of them trying things, I saw today, that like source, I think the Windows Central said that Sea of Thieves sold 1 million on PS5. Like that's a lot of money. So they're looking at that, and their sort of tactic of trying the 4 games worked. Although I only think Sea of Thieves made a lot of money. The others probably not.
But that's the thing is, like, if they're seeing that there's that much money being left on the table, PlayStation left that money on the table through the PS4 gen because they were making it back with console sales and winning market share and stuff. Xbox is putting this stuff out there, and it's not like they're losing market share. They're leaving money on the table and then losing money elsewhere. So everybody agrees, even Phil Spencer has openly discussed how they, like, what they were doing for the last decade has not been working. They have to do something different. And I think we're in that weird gap period where they're trying to decide what they're going to do moving forward, what the new strategy or meta is going to be. And so they're just doing everything poorly. and they're upsetting the old school fans who are expecting them to behave like PlayStation of the PS4 gen, and they're confusing new players on PlayStation and PC who just don't really know what the hell's going on. And so I think they just got to figure it out and then stick to the path and move forward, because they've got good games coming. They've got big stuff. I think Doom's going to pop off. I think Fable's probably going to pop off, especially if that stuff is actually in game. Those graphics
but
are
Doom is on
insane.
PS5 as well.
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is that if that's what they're going to do, if they're going to bring it to PS5, clearly communicate how they're doing it,
Yeah.
sell pre-orders, you can even give a discount, you do whatever you need to do. But like, I'm just sick of the super hyper vague stuff where they're like, well, this batch, we're not bringing these games, but maybe in the future we might sort of kind of do something else. And so right now, people don't know if they're getting getting Starfield. They don't know if they're getting whatever, like, because it's just not clear.
By the way, I think the character, the outfits from Dragon Ball are actually characters. They're different people.
I don't know Dragon Ball, so that
I think I saw people in the chat say it as well, but it now says, I'm looking at the image, 6 characters early unlock. Okay,
6
that's a nice.
different-
Okay, we got a few more super chats. Then we're gonna end the show because, like I said, I'm tired. I need to sleep.
Yes, I guess looking at it, they are in slightly different poses. I don't get it. I don't understand Dragon Ball. Okay, anyway, moving on. Iric, thank you for the super chat. What world premieres do you guys think we will see at the Game Awards this year? Any hidden surprises? What is one world premiere you think we see? And I'll also throw out one.
Ooh. I mean, 2K is kind of on a roll. BioShock.
I mean, you took mine. I was gonna say BioShock.
Oh, really? Were you gonna say BioShock?
I mean, prior to yesterday, I would have said Mafia, but they've done that. So,
or they might do like Witcher, like something like that, like a big game that is like 2026 at the earliest.
I do think we see the next Hazelight game. I think we see their next game.
Yeah, and then it's like coming out 2 months later.
Mm-hmm.
That I think makes sense. Yeah, I think that's kind of where, like, I hope. Yeah, I mean, I think Sony is gonna do a big show hopefully in a few weeks, like in September with the PS5 Pro. So they're gonna save their stuff for that.
Yeah, I think that's when we see Ghost 2.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, there's options. There's options. There's potential. Zolt Pazdor, thank you for the 10. Very generous. 10 pounds. To play every game, you need a PS5 and a good PC. Xbox doesn't encourage playing to play on only Xbox because they release everything to PC or PlayStation. Keep up the good work. Love from Hungary. Thank you, my friend. Very generous. And I agree. I mean, the new policy, there is literally no reason to get an Xbox if you could also afford a PC and just do that instead, or even just a PlayStation and be a little patient. Ultimately, though, it seems like the best place, full stop, period, is PC, because you're going to get everybody's exclusives eventually, and it's going to run better.
Wukong runs better on PS5.
What? I mean, I tested it.
It's steady 60 FPS. I heard a lot of people say, I mean, issues.
If you like playing a game that looks like somebody rubbed butter all over your monitor, then I guess. But yeah, I don't know. We'll circle back to that debate next week, I suppose. Samaya, last super chat. Thank you, my friend. Yakuza Infinite Wealth is my game of the year, but I think this year Wukong will take it. Do you think AC Shadows has a chance to be nominated? It's looking rough for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
yeah, no. That might be like the worst game of the year award.
Do you think their last Assassin's Creed game was nominated?
Fallout was not.
No, Odyssey, the last one from this team.
Oh yeah. But does it like count? Like, do they still count because they're November 15th?
Yeah, I think the cutoff is like
I think
it's
like
10 days before. Is that right? Cut off.
Because if we make a quick list, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, yeah, and I saw people lost in the comments and said, why is it not exciting for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to win? that I thought about it, and you're right. It totally deserves to win. It's more like that. Like I loved it when It Takes Two won, or like something, or like Baldur's Gate was still. We knew that it was probably going to win, but there were like other games fighting as well. Like I just think I'm not sure if
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
it's
I'm not
fun when
making
it's.
good.
I agree with the sentiment though. Like it's fun when it's not just the biggest budget game. Like
Yeah, exactly.
when it's something that I don't know if underdog is the right term, but just something that you were like, yeah, I would love it if this happened, but it probably won't. So I agree. I think this Game Awards, this award season is going to be strange just because it's been kind of a weird year. But as for AC Shadows, if that could actually get nominated, I will wait to see it.
I don't think
but
it will. Because we have like, is Elden Ring: The Shadow of the Earth Tree going to be nominated?
I don't think they nominated Phantom Liberty, so I don't think you can nominate Shadow of the Earth
No.
Tree.
Yeah. So okay. So then we have Final Fantasy VII Remake. Maybe Animal Well. I know that did very well. Or like had a lot of people actually love it, but I'm not sure how many people actually played it. You got that Balatro game. Do you know that? Like the card
That
game.
sounds super familiar.
Yeah, it's like a poker-inspired roguelike game. I'm looking at the Metacritic, by the way. I'm cheating, but
Yeah, Metacritic 9 out of 10 for Ballad.
like Metacritic best games this year. But there's a lot of room because it's like 1 Elden Ring, 2 Final Fantasy VII, Animal Well number 3, Balatro number 4, The Last of Us Part 1 on PC. That came out this year. Number 5, a game called Thank Goodness on number 6, Tekken 8, but that's never gonna get nominated.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's probably like the nominees are gonna be the games that left people with the biggest impact. So probably like Pal World, probably Helldivers. I imagine.
I don't think Pal World is gonna get it though.
You don't think so? I mean, it's definitely one of the biggest, but then again, last year the biggest game of the year they just pretended didn't exist. So I guess.
Yeah, but it's like it's also quality. It has to be like it. Like sure, it was big, but it also has to be like quality. But I'm not sure what game can beat it.
I mean, Black Myth Wukong, I think will get nominated.
Yeah, it might get nominated. But on the other hand, like it's like 8 on reviews. It might get like the community voted.
Yeah.
And then the real game of the year, Like a Dragon, I can totally see that. Infinite Wealth.
I mean, honestly, like the safest
well.
bet would just be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like,
Yeah,
just toss it there. I would kind of hope for something like a Black Myth or something that was maybe more unexpected, but yeah, I don't know if it'll be that hotly contested, at least on the Metacritic side of things.
Would be cool if Prince of Persia got nominated.
Yeah, Prince of Persia is really good, dude.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there's a reason people called it the best Ubisoft game of the last like 5 years, because it is really, really good. And they've done it
too. I could see as well.
Helldivers 2 I could totally see, because that was really good and surprising.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's options. But as
Stellar
for
Blade
AC
best
Shadows, Stellar Blade. Yeah. As for AC Shadows, personally, we haven't seen much of the game. Like we've seen a couple bits here and there. I'm gonna withhold judgment until I see more, but as of right now, I'm not guessing that launches and is like a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. I'm guessing it's much more mixed for a lot of people.
Yeah,
but I'd love to be wrong.
I think it's gonna be one of those games where like the people that are gonna have a big vote, they're kind of like over those big games. Like it's gonna be a massive game. Like I think a lot of people are like,
yeah,
it's not really for them. I see someone say Dragon Age, and Dragon Age Inquisition 1. So if that's like if that turns out well, I can see that.
And I'm telling you what, I've been following it pretty close. I am very hopeful for that game. You know, nobody should be pre-ordering it. Nobody should be doing anything. The last 2 games they put out were disasters. So, like, you shouldn't be pre-ordering, just to be very, very clear. But I am rooting for them because I would love for that story to end happily. For them to be like, yep, we had 2 wrecks and then look, we just redeemed ourselves. I would love for that to be the case. And they've done a lot of stuff that is encouraging. I mean, the game is already Steam Deck verified. In an age of terrible optimization, that's really promising to see.
That's cool. Yeah.
You know, you don't see that.
And Indiana Jones, like, that cannot be nominated because that's
too late.
in December. Yeah, it's too late.
Much
Silent Hill 2, I heard good, like that could get nominated because Resident Evil, I think, got nominated as well. That seemed to be better than people expected. So.
Yeah, which is great to hear because Team Bloober is solid, but they also tend to have a couple of weird quirks with their games with like animations and stuff. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is now out of the running because it was delayed.
Metaphor Refantasio, I think that's like too niche. Like, even if it's like, maybe if it's like Persona level good, but I'm not sure.
I know some people are going to say Stalker 2. I think time will tell with that. That's November.
I don't see that. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I would be shocked if that's a Game of the Year nomination. But I think Final Fantasy 7 is probably very likely gonna win, or like the runner up at least.
Yeah.
I hope that takes OST, by the way, official, like the soundtrack wins that.
Oh yeah,
The soundtrack is insane.
And then lastly, Demario, thank you for the last super chat of the day. I personally only wait for any news from CD Projekt Red, as do we all, because CDPR, they're cooking right now, and I'm sure it's going to be mighty tasty when we get it. So, with that, my friends, Joe Raptor's got to sleep. Joe Raptor's a tired boy.
Yeah, I woke up like a few days at 7. That's like very...
For a YouTuber, that's like 3 in the morning. Yeah. That's like really early. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you everybody who has left us Spotify reviews. Thank you everybody who has super chatted very generously today and joined us. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people out here today. So
there's one more thing you can also do to support the show, which would be awesome, is go to the Spotify app on your phone and leave us a 5-star review. So search the Free Roam Podcast. Every week we're getting a lot of new reviews. So if you left that 5-star, you know who you are. We appreciate you a lot. We're at 254 now. And last week, I think we were in the 30s. So it's like at 20 every week or something, which is crazy.
You guys are great. You guys are great. We appreciate the gosh darn heck out of you. And with that, we're going to let Joe Raptor get some sleep. Thanks for hanging with us, guys.
53 nights. Don't do it. I'm going to leave a 3-star review on Spotify due to that Aloy comment. You can get your money back if you just don't do that.
Thanks for watching, guys, and listening. Much love. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.